I have created 4 perfect players for the nation of India in Football Manager, a country with 1.4 billion people that has never qualified for the World Cup. And so, I gave them a goalkeeper, I gave them a centre-back, a centre midfielder, and I even gave them a striker. And I set all of their current abilities to the maximum of 200 out of 200. I've also placed them in the Indian Hero I-League. So not only will we be able to see whether these 4 players can drag India to a World Cup, maybe even win one, but we can also follow their careers and see how these types of players will find a career being in a very low reputation league, whether they'll get spotted, whether they'll transfer to the big clubs of Europe. Now, obviously, India did not qualify for Qatar, which England won in the final 1-0. Very different from what actually happened. But after one full season, these 4 players are still at their starting clubs in the Indian League with no interest to be bought, despite all being valued around £1 million. Probably because their world reputation is too low. Kerala FC, who are the current holders of the league, won this season as well, which is the team of the created goalkeeper. Now, focusing on the Indian national team, their FIFA World Ranking starts off at 102nd place in the world. So let's skip forward to the first World Cup qualifiers, and they have made it, finishing in 3rd place in their group. Annoyingly, this was with the terrible new format that FIFA are proposing for World Cups going forward. And India have been drawn in a 3-team group with Germany and Ghana. But India have already climbed up to 75th in the world rankings, and all 4 players have been picked for the World Cup squad. However, only 3 of them have moved away from the Indian League. And funny enough, 2 of them have gone to the same team. The Wonder Kid striker here has moved to Borussia Dortmund, aged 19 now, obviously amazing. Only 675k, and he scored 20 goals so far in the Bundesliga in 29 games in his first season. But he was joined as well by the Wonder Kid goalkeeper. So again, 375k, hardly any amount of money, and he only conceded 11 goals in 25 games. That is absolutely bonkers. So those 2 have moved to Europe, a big European club. Maybe Borussia Dortmund are doing really well this year, but the Wonder Kid midfielder moved to the MLS, and that is not what I expected. The world's best midfielder moved to LA Galaxy in his prime years of just 18 to 19, £1.1 million. He was the first one to move out of the 4 players. Unfortunately though, the Wonder Kid defender is still at Punjab FC, not really having a look in because nobody else is actually trying to sign him. As you can see, there's no wanted sign. I guess, again, it's that reputation. If there already wasn't enough reasons why FIFA's new proposal for the World Cup format should be scrapped, then India qualifying without scoring a goal should be added to that list. But in the second round, for some reason, the midfielder and striker did not feature. Possibly they were suspended, and it cost India dearly, although they did score their first ever World Cup goal. They also had 2 players sent off and lost 2-1 to Uruguay. The exposure on the big stage, though, led to the defender getting snapped up finally by PSG on a free transfer. So there was no luck in the World Cup of 2026, but it was still a World Cup of firsts, because the Ivory Coast beat Argentina in the final to win the first ever World Cup for an African team, and on penalties as well. Now, I've done experiments where I've made certain African nations overpowered and they still haven't won the World Cup, and I've not touched Africa at all as a continent, and yet in the first World Cup after the closest one in 2022, they go and win one. In 2030 though, India finished in 5th place for qualification. But because there are so many teams who qualify, they still got through in a 2-legged playoff. And they managed to progress to the second round after beating Tunisia in their group. But despite having their fully strengthened side this time, they still lost to Mexico 1-0. However, after back-to-back second round eliminations, the Blue Tigers of India find themselves ranked 52nd in the world rankings. But let's take a look at where our 4 players are now playing. As we can see, the Wonder Kid midfielder, now not really a Wonder Kid, moved to Manchester City from LA Galaxy after a good amount of time there, to be honest. He played 5 seasons in America before moving to the Premier League for 28 million. He's had a great season. It looks like here with 32 games, 3 goals, 4 assists, and a very high average rating in the Premier League. He's not the only one, though, that's in the Premier League. Because if we take a look at the other Wonder Kid players, or perfect players now, the goalkeeper finds himself at Liverpool. So they're at 24 now, so they're about to reach their prime age. £72 million. He has just made his move right before this World Cup, or right after this World Cup, and has yet to play a season in the Premier League. But after a good amount of time in Germany for Borussia Dortmund, he has made his move. The Wonder Kid defender, as we've seen, moved to PSG. He is still there, and he has had a great time so far. We'll take a look at all of their milestones and everything and see what they've won after. And finally, we have the Wonder Kid striker, who has actually scored an insane amount of goals, by the way, for India. 96 goals in 74 caps, which is mental, and is probably on the highest wage. He finds himself at Real Madrid, 24 years of age now, from Borussia Dortmund, £96 million. Some good amount of goals tallies. Not insane amount, considering he is obviously 200 out of 200 current ability, but 22 and 23 goals in round about 35 games. Yeah, that's still good. Not enough to win the Ballon d'Or yet, though. For the 2034 World Cup, which will be held in China, once again, India finished 5th place in their qualifying group, but overcame Qatar to qualify at the last minute once again. Just like 4 years before, they secured 3 points to qualify in the second round of their group behind Argentina, but couldn't do anything in the second round when Jamal Musiala scored a hat-trick for the Germans to eliminate the Indians. But once again, they climbed the ranks to 41st in the world. And so what's happening with the players? The Wonder Kid defender, he is now at Barcelona. He has moved from PSG for £68 million. Quite a controversial move, really, because I don't think that's enough money for a player that is 200 out of 200 current ability. But anyway, if we go to the senior squad, we can see the other 3 players are still at the same clubs where we left them 4 years ago. So the Wonder Kid striker is now on 154 goals in just 113 caps. Obviously, they now have worldwide reputations, playing in better leagues. And for Real Madrid, obviously he will face the Wonder Kid defender at Barcelona quite often in La Liga, but he has got a very good goal scoring record this season, not so much the season before, but he's still putting in good average ratings there. And then we have the midfielder. He obviously moved to Manchester City, where we can still see him here. And we have not really, he's been playing a lot of games and been getting a good amount of average rating, but he's not exactly been lighting the league up. And I question, Manchester City have been playing him obviously at left back and left wing back, which is a little bit strange because he's also right footed, so whether they're playing inverted wing backs and using him in that role instead. And finally, we've got the Wonder Kid goalkeeper still at Liverpool, and it does look like he has had a bad season this year, considering some of the seasons he was only conceding in the teens amount of goals in the Premier League. Now, he doesn't look like he's playing every single game either. No idea why. He also has 104 caps for India, so it's probably going to be those two are going to be the highest cap, the striker and the Wonder Kid goalkeeper. We got 82 there for the midfielder, and the defender is at 106, so maybe not. Maybe just the midfielder that is kind of slacking in behind. We will take a look at what they win at the end of their careers, because they're still only 28. One little spoiler though, is the striker finally won the Ballon d'Or this year just gone. The Netherlands won the Chinese World Cup, with Portugal, who I forgot to mention, winning the 2030 one too. On to the next though. In 2038, India finally qualify once again through automatically finishing in 4th place. But with a very difficult group, they crashed out of the South African World Cup without a single point. Their rankings have taken a hit too, dropping down to 48. But a combination of reputation increase and the league being loaded means that India as a nation are producing better players. However, something very unfortunate and unexpected happened before this World Cup. When I clicked on to the Indian national team, I noticed that our key players down here didn't actually include any of the 3 outfield Wonder Kid players. We have the Wonder Kid goalkeeper here that if I click on, he's still at Liverpool, age 32, so 143 caps, still fantastic. Now, 32 is nowhere near old enough to obviously be too bad to play for your international team, but they're not here. And if I went and found them, if I went and clicked on Wonder Kid, if I went to Wonder Kid striker, retired from international football in 2036, so they didn't even go to this World Cup. Age 30. He retired at age 30 for his national team after scoring 213 goals in 144 appearances. By that time, I'd imagine I would just want to continue and just see how many goals I can do and kind of try and break an international record, I guess. Wonder Kid midfielder, also the same, 2036, obviously is in cahoots with each other and is also still at Manchester City. And finally, let's have a look at the Wonder Kid defender and see what he's been doing. He is still at Barcelona, and look at that, it's pretty much the same date, and they all retired at the same time. So I am a little bit suspicious as to what's happened here. Now, Barcelona defender, let's take a look then and see what he has managed to do. The milestones in his career, he has been winning a Champions League, so that's fantastic. They look like they've won a few Champions Leagues, in fact, Barcelona, with this Wonder Kid defender there, so he's won 2 there. And look at that, we can also see the other 3 teams that our players have played for. PSG, obviously, they're not going to be there right now. Maybe he did win one when he was there. Real Madrid, though, won in 2033, and Manchester City are the current holders of the team, so of the Champions League. So the Wonder Kid midfielder has won a couple of Champions Leagues with Manchester City, which is fantastic, obviously. Now, they've also won the Club World Cup, which is great, League Cup, so all those little types of things that he has managed to do in his career. The Wonder Kid striker, what has he been doing since he has been at Real Madrid? Obviously, we've seen that he did kind of have a Champions League medal, maybe, was it Champions League? Yeah, they do. So down there in 2033, Champions League winners, they won it 2 times there. He's actually won it quite a few times. He's won it 3 times in total. Not bad at all. But the Ballon d'Or. Now, it's going to be really hard for the other players to win the Ballon d'Or, but we can see here another one, 2036. He's won it again, and he has won 3 in total, which is fantastic. Now, it is a shame that you don't see a lot of Wonder Kid midfielders manage to go on and win the Ballon d'Or, but, I mean, we can see a lot of these midfielders. So, Yeremy Pino, he's a midfielder. We can also see, obviously, Pedri, centre midfielder. He was in 3rd place there. So we can't see any of the other Indian players that we have created in and around this at all, which I think is a little bit of a shame. Wonder Kid striker there finished 3rd place. He could have gone for 4 in a row, but he didn't. So I'm going to go forward a little bit further on and just see what's happening to the Indian national team. By 2042 qualification, India couldn't even qualify to the Asian qualifying final group stage. They are still ranked 55th in the world, which is reasonably high compared to where they started. But again, it's only the goalkeeper who still plays for the national team. And he is the only player in the national team to not play in India. Unfortunately, it's quite boring because none of the other players have actually left the clubs that we left them at either. Wonder Kid striker here is still at Real Madrid, age 36. Obviously, never came out of retirement. And the other 2 teams, the other 2 players are still at Manchester City and still at Barcelona, with the goalkeeper still at Liverpool. So no further movements after he made that £28 million move for the midfielder after playing so many great seasons. Again, I mean, obviously I fixed their current ability, so that's not going to go down. So it's just a case of which team does better in the Champions League. We can see it's been traded between the 2 players there, the striker and the midfielder, for Bayern Munich has just won it here. But that is a shame, I think, that we're not going to see too much of a difference in the Wonder Kid defender, albeit could play up front, really, couldn't he? He's got fantastic finishing. He never really moved away from Barcelona, and it doesn't look like they've done a lot. They did win the Champions League in 2035, but after that, that was basically it after his career, which he won it here, that he won the Champions League here, so he's done nothing really here. We can't see the La Liga, maybe he's won a few of them. He's done okay for himself, but I'm just so disappointed in India in general. Like, only getting through to the 2nd round, and I hate the World Cup format, unfortunately, and 55th is quite good. It's not amazing, but I guess it's a lot better than what it could have been. Their highest, by the way, because you can actually see this if you go on their history, the highest we got to there was 35th, which is not bad at all, really. We only seen it when it was around like the 40s. I think it was like here, 42nd, something like that. So they did spend some time here in the 30s, but it's tailed off ever since, obviously, the 3 players announced their retirement. And the striker never won a Ballon d'Or again either, by the way. If you got to this far, you haven't subscribed yet, you might as well do just that. And why not check out this video where I tried to win a Champions League for Zlatan, who shockingly has yet to win one in his career.